So one thing I haven't done in a while is done a vlog on this channel. Specifically a vlog in regards to theological thought. And basically an idea of what and where I'm coming from when it comes to theology. So one thing I want to get out of the gate when it comes to discussing theology is, and this is something that I've seen that has happened to Matt Walsh, and this is something that I've seen that has happened to many other people, is that whenever theology is discussed, there is this idea that if you do not agree with a certain idea or concept in regards to the Bible, then you're missing this one thing that will change your mind. That thing does not exist. I want you to understand something when it comes to Christianity, for those who are new to the faith. To those of us who are not new to the faith, to those of us who study theology, to those of us who spend our time thinking about God and thinking about the future and thinking about the things that He has brought forth into this universe and how He's come along doing so, the idea that there would be any one thing that is going to change our entire perspective, when we already had the one thing that did, i.e. the existence of a deity that is involved in our daily life, it's going to be very hard for us to just suddenly give up a certain idea or think that one idea that in regards to the scripture is going to change everything for us. Is just it's like any other idea that exists in the ether. It is simply something that is to be debated and something to be discussed. We had a person that was in the comment section of the most recent entertainment podcast who says that he works for Ken Ham's Genesis Museum, or what it's called. And, I have no way of verifying that, and I'm not going to, have him go out of his way to expose himself. But one thing that I find profoundly annoying is the idea that somebody comes up to you and says, well, you didn't listen well enough. To a guy like me who's been studying theology since he was 12. I'm 32. So let's think about that for a second. 20 years of biblical study. 20. If there are such things as parallel universes, or at least some sort of eventuality, or other eventualities that God alone is able to see, I guarantee that one of them is one where I am not Micah Curtis, soon-to-be comic book writer. I am Dr. Micah Curtis with a doctorate in theology from some giant theological school somewhere, and I'm, teaching that at some university and writing books instead of doing what I do now, which is mostly entertainment-oriented. And I'm probably just as annoying to people. But that, if I, and that's something I will be honest about. Had I not gotten married in my second year of college, I would be a theologian at this point in my life, most likely. So this idea that there is any one thing that you're going to show me that Ken Ham has said or done that is going to change my mind on young earth creationism is preposterous. And I don't say that to be offensive, I say it to be honest with you. Why am I not a young earth creationist? This brings up. It's quite simple. I think the arguments for young earth creationism are nonsense, to be frank with you. There is... The arguments that Ken Ham has put forward are flimsy at best. The idea that the earth is as young as he says it is, there is no basis in that sort of a statement. We have plenty of evidence that says the contrary. And I am not prepared to deny the method in which we discover God's creation, i.e. science, for the sake of whatever. Thinking that that's somehow going to, make me more holy. I'm sorry, but that's also nonsense. There is no reason to think that that element of the Bible is meant to be taken quite literally. But I prefer to argue it not necessarily from a scientific perspective, because I am not a scientist, but more from a concept, or a argument from concept, if that makes any sense. So, imagine you're God. Oh wait, you can't. What is a day to the eternal? That is a question that I have never had answered. But that's because a human being can't answer it, because we are not eternal. We have a start point, and then our lives on Earth have an end point. And then we are to assume that after that start point that our soul travels to the afterlife, heaven or hell. And even then, we will not be able to understand what deity truly is, because it's not our state of being. It is not how we comprehend existence. A day to a deity could be millions of years. I am someone, though, who does believe, as someone like Francis Collins does, that evolution is something we don't really understand completely yet, because there are elements, and this is also a criticism that Ravi Zacharias, the theologian and mathematician John Lennox, have argued when it comes to things, is that there are certain elements of creation and the process of creation that the atheist and the scientific materialist has been unable to answer, specifically the Cambrian explosion and the speed in which the Big Bang established a universe. The latter of the two, and the argument presented by theologians and those who are theologically minded, is that it happened so fast, it was almost like the universe was obeying a command. And the Cambrian explosion going against something that Darwin says in The Origin of Species, that nature does not leap. So there are criticisms of evolution. And again, our understanding of it, along with our understanding of the entire universe so far, has been honestly pathetic. When you think about how, and this is something that I've discussed with my sister, who studied biology, veterinary science at the University of Illinois, is what we know is very small compared to what we don't know. So to assume that there is this idea that science has somehow disproven God is also silly. Just for those of you who think that maybe I'm a closet atheist or something, I am certainly not. No, but rather, I believe, and I will always believe, that God does not want human beings to exist in a world of blind faith. And I think that that is the biggest problem that I have with young Earth creationism, besides the lack of evidence. It is the idea that it requires blind faith from the believer. And that, I don't think Christ ever would abide by. It's very, very rare that he would ask for someone to simply have blind faith. He would ask people the question, have I given you some reason to, just the idea of, is there some reason to doubt that I am good? Definitely going to be editing this together. So, this is one thing that I have to say, is one thing I see commonly argued towards gentlemen such as myself, is you are limiting God. So, wait a minute. Quick question. If I believe that God started the creation of the universe with a command, how am I limiting him? I have always believed and envisioned God as through the text of the Bible, as a careful creator, as one who always has a plan. Is it possible that God literally took 6 24-hour periods to craft everything? Possibly. He's omnipotent. Would he? I'm not so certain of that. And that inevitably is where the debate happens. And I think that the debate, again, is not backed in evidence when it comes to the young earth creationist. But there is an interesting discussion to be had about deity and about omnipotence, things along those lines. At the end of the day, though, my biggest concern is amongst Christians basically looking for this, constant weeding out of people that they like to think are chaff. The idea that someone such as myself, because I don't believe in young earth creationism, makes me less of a Christian is preposterous. Because there are a lot of people who are Christians who don't believe it, but there are quite a few who do. I think it's honestly, at the end of the day, a pointless discussion, in a sense. Because Christ and his message is ultimately more important. The lesson that one takes away from Genesis is God is powerful, all-powerful. God has a plan for creation that has started since the beginning of the very universe we exist in. And that there is consequence for disobeying that. It's a constant lesson in Genesis. Is that there is cause, and there is effect, and there is a constant. And the constant is God. And what Genesis does is it gives you a scale for God. It gives you an idea of his hugeness, in a sense, and that he is truly awesome. It's a power you can place your trust in. And I think that this debate ultimately is fruitless because we are completely unwilling to see that fact. And if you judge me harshly based on the fact that I am not willing to throw science out the window, then by all means judge away. At the end of the day, it's not something I like to focus on more than just the statement of, no, you will not change my mind. My name is Micah Curtis. Thanks for watching.